Leafs training camp started today. They went through the media rundown and everything as usual, and there are some major stories already. Timothy Liljegren out for at least 6 weeks. Pierre Engvall going to be reevaluated on October 3rd, and Auston Matthews, is he going anywhere, or does he really love Toronto as much as he says he does? All of this and more in today's video. What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. The Leafs season is rapidly approaching. These guys are on ice today. There's already reports John Tavares was on the ice an hour before media even showed up, an hour before they even needed to be on the ice today. So take that for what you will. I mean, sometimes that's looked as a hero move, but I mean, it's Johnny T. We know that this guy's doing that anyways, but let's get into some of the bigger news that came out. Let's waste no time. Starting off, Timothy Liljegren is announced that he will be out for at least 6 weeks undergoing hernia surgery, and there's more to this than just like, what does it mean for Timothy Liljegren? I'm going to start off by saying, if you have a different opinion, so be it. You can let me know here, but I don't think this means anything. The guy has a hernia. He's got to get it sorted out. They come to camp. They do their physicals. They find the hernia. Something might have been bothering him. He gets evaluated by the team doctors, and then they decide, yep, we need to do something about this right now. So they do the surgery for him. He's out 6 weeks. Whatever. That's the way it goes. I don't look too much into that. What I am looking at here is the fact that this now allows the Toronto Maple Leafs to put him onto LTIR. He just signed a contract for 2 years for $1.4 million per. It opens up that approximately $1.4 million with him on the LTIR. And then looking at this a little bit further, there's a huge name here yet to be signed by this Leafs team. Rasmus Sandin sitting there as an RFA. This guy's not in camp. We have not heard anything about contract discussions. That needs to get done. And then their other news, kind of just trailing off of all of this, is that there's guys here competing for jobs. Victor Mete, Jordy Ben, among those. Justin Holl, a guy who obviously had a spot last year that we looked at, that we're probably going to say, hopefully he doesn't have one this year, but as of right now, he does. Goody, I mean, if you have thoughts on the injury, feel free to share. But I mean, outside of that, kind of where does this leave you with the rest of the guys and the cap situation?
Well, Leafs are cap pressed right now. That's nothing new. Unfortunate what's happening to Liljegren. I tend to agree with you that it's nothing in the greater scheme of things, but this guy needs all the ice time he can get. So it is unfortunate. I want him to start the season, hopefully play 82. I mean, that's not really the reality. I doubt it would have happened that way. There would be a bump in the road, but yeah, I won't lie. It sucks that he won't start the season with the team because I'm expecting a big year from him. We need right-handed defensemen. We need him to step up. I'm excited to see him back, though. Hopefully everything goes smooth. I'm sure it will. Hernia would suck, man. That is an annoying injury, but definitely not one that would really, impede his recovery much. I think it should be smooth. So excited to see Liljegren when he finally hits the ice. And you bring up Sandin, a very interesting situation, right? Like, this guy's probably, what do you think the ballpark is that he's going to need to be paid? Like, around 2.2 million?
Yeah, I'd say between there to like 2.7. I don't think you can really push past that, but that's also dependent on term. I think he's a better player than Timothy Liljegren. I think he's a little more proven. I mean, you look at 2 years ago in the series against Montreal, they're running this guy out there in power play 1 minutes. He was quarterbacking power play 1. And a year later, he made some progressions. He obviously wasn't in a full position where they trusted him completely. We saw him coming out of the lineup when it came to playoff time there. But I'm just looking at this guy, and I don't think that this is a matter of money. When it comes down to it, all the reports that I've seen has been about the fact that he wants guaranteed playing time. And he wants to know that he's going to have a spot. And my personal opinion on this is, if it's not about money, it's not about term, it's not about the contract, the AAV, whatever the bonus is, get it done. Because there's so many guys in this lineup ahead of him right now that I just can't see being mainstays on this team for an extended period of time, or actually being guys who are beneficial to winning a cup in the short term.
Well, it's got to be about money to a certain extent, no? Like, the Leafs don't have a whole lot of cap space, and I agree with you. I think that he's got more like security looking at this season than most, but clearly when you look at the reports and the rumors, there's a little bit of doubt still in the Leafs management mind when it comes to Sandin. And you mentioned, he wasn't always in the lineup. But the one positive here of you looking at Pierre Engvall out of the lineup, now you're looking at Liljegren out as well. You have more of a grace period to sign him and then see the guys who are filling in for those two to honestly maybe see if Pierre Engvall is replaceable. I hate to say that, like, that's our guy. But for sure, when you look at some of the guys that, Aston Reese, other players that we picked up, if someone goes in there and does the job that he did, and don't get me wrong, like it's hard to do the job he did with those kind of minutes. Like we love Engvall. We straight up love him. But if it
Yeah.
comes down to, okay, we could have someone that can pretty well do that. And now we can sign Sandin, and him being out at the beginning of the season allowed us to see that and make it work on the books. Then, hey, like that's not a terrible situation. So it's definitely opening up the auditions a little bit at the beginning of the season. But to come back to the Sandin conversation, it does have to be a little bit about money. No, like what is the current cap outlook of this team right now as it stands today?
Well, the Leafs are currently 1.4 mil over the salary cap, so there's obviously money that's going to have to go. But when you're looking at that, there's guys who are going to be cut or sent down, and their money's not going to count. I look at a guy like Jordy Bent, a guy like Victor Mete. Those guys likely won't be on the team opening night. That's a very strong possibility. There's also guys up front, Adam Gaudette, Nicolas Aube-Kubel, guys who are fighting for spots in there. Likely guys who might be moved down to the Marlies. Not all of them. Joey Anderson, but some of them will be moved down, which alleviates some cap space. But more so, my thinking on this is that when we're talking about how hard it is to move money and fit money in the NHL, there's one example in the NHL this year right now that I think people should look at very closely when they're going to sit here and make excuses for not being able to move money or get things done. The Calgary Flames. Trey Living in Calgary, the general manager over there, looked at a situation where his superstar player left in Johnny Gaudreau. He said, see you later. They got nothing in return for him because he walked in free agency. And then he had a note on his desk from Matthew Tkachuk saying, I ain't coming back next year or after next season. So do with that info what you will. And he went out and he moved Matthew Tkachuk for an absolute haul. He returned Huberdeau, blanking on the defenseman's name right now. Weegar, thank you. Signed both of them to long-term deals, and then, guess what? Also went out and got Nazem Kadri. That is a prime example of a guy making the money work within his team. And now, the thing that I look at on this team where I go, how can you not make this work, is you're holding on to guys, as you mentioned, Pierre Engvall, Alex Kerfoot, Justin Hall, Jake Muzzin. These are lots. That's a lot of money held up in at least just those four guys that I just mentioned of guys who could potentially be moved out. Now, mind you, it does depend on the return that you're going to get. You can't just throw these guys away for pennies on the dollar, but you are looking to clear some space, and if you think moving them out to allow a guy like Sandin to fit in here can help improve your team, I'm of the mindset you do so. And if this isn't about money and the two parties can say, hey, we're comfortable with this number, but you're going to have to do this in order for us to sign him, why can you not move on from those guys and get him into a spot? I will not be able to wrap my head around it. So that's kind of just where I'm at.
I mean, think about the result we've got the past few seasons. I mean, beyond the past few seasons, you can't be attached to anybody at this point, I think you got to make moves, take risks, and you bring up Calgary. I don't remember a time really in sports in general where you lose your two best players and you actually might have came out of that offseason better. Again, we're waiting to see it tested, but I mean, you could make the argument right now that they got a little bit better, which is absolutely wild when you consider what they gave up and just how weird those turn of events was. And talking about Calgary is a decent way to segue into the next point that we wanted to touch on. I don't know if you're ready to go there yet, but Auston Matthews making some interesting comments. We can tie this back to Calgary and what happened with Gaudreau, but I want to hear first what you think of what he was saying.
Well, I don't think we can look too much into it. I mean, personally, I'm going to run around and tell everybody he's not going anywhere. I'm going to do the exact same Kawhi line that we had in that summer of free agency where everyone said, he's stay. I already have messaged people that. I sent screenshots. One of the people we work with is a Habs fan. I just sent a screenshot and said, he stay. And he replied to me and said, that's fine. He can stay. No Stanley Cup winner has ever had a $13 million player on their roster. So touche to that one. But I am going to say there's one thing I am very, very convinced of. The man's not going to Arizona. Whether that means he's staying in Toronto or not, he's not going to Arizona. And I'm looking at this like that is an embarrassing franchise playing in a college arena right now. Like that is the Arizona State Coyotes for the time being, and there is no future for them in any capacity of where they could be or when they'll be there. There's literally clauses that say they could just get kicked out of that barn. So like like, he's not going to Arizona, guys. This guy's a superstar. He wants to be a superstar in a superstar city. He was very evident today that does love the city of Toronto. He made it very clear. The city, the fans, the team, the organization has embraced him, made it easy for him, made it easy for his family. I think those are all positive notes. Now, that does not mean that he's going to stay, but I think it is a good sign in the right direction. He also talked about the fact that he feels comfortable in his own skin here. He was able to grow into his own, and he just loves playing here. I think those are all positive signs, but that being said, in a lot of ways, it is lip service. It doesn't mean too much. He's saying the right things. He said he's 2 years away. I'm not going to talk about this. I can't even sign my contract from another 10 months if I wanted to. So for the time being, hopefully it puts Leafs fans at ease. But that being said, every single Twitter keyboard warrior out there is going to sit there and say, he's leaving, he's going to the Coyotes. Guess what? He's not going to the Coyotes. He might go somewhere else. It's not the Coyotes.
Look, I'm more pessimistic than you, and I've been more pessimistic on this for a long time, and maybe that's just lowering my standards so I'm not too upset when it, or if it happens, I should say. You're right. Coyotes is off the table. They're embarrassing. I could see maybe like a 35-year-old Auston Matthews signing a 1 year there at the end of his career or something, just to go home and play more golf throughout the winter. I don't know. I could see that. Kind of like the Phil Kessel tour going on right now. He's in Vegas, but you get what I mean. Like, not until his retirement days or on the fringe. It's like the LAs of the world that scare me. I could see him wanting to play
Rangers.
for the Kings, even the Rangers. Yeah, it's those same teams that come to mind because we know Auston Matthews' personality. He's a superstar. Like, he wants that spotlight, that red carpet. And there's few places in the NHL that can do it as good as Toronto. Debatably none. But you look at the market in LA, you know, he could still make himself, he could carve out a superstar sort of niche there for himself, even playing hockey. And then in New York, that speaks for itself. That's a really great market to play in as well. I'm still scared. And I think it's for a few reasons. First of all, lack of team success, right? Auston Matthews doesn't actually strike me as the guy that, you know, is going to burn a bridge over not having won a Stanley Cup yet. I think he takes the losses pretty well. Like, he doesn't actually seem to lose sleep over it, which might be a good and bad thing. But anyhow, I don't really think he's that likely to leave for those reasons. I do get a little bit upset about the fact that we haven't given him the captaincy. I know that it was probably part of the negotiation to get John Tavares to come here and give us the hometown discount, which still looks pretty underwhelming now. But yeah, I think that we've messed up a couple of things because Auston Matthews has an ego to feed. He straight up does. And I think we immediately fumbled the ball, not putting the C on the first overall true goal scoring generational talent kid that we drafted. Like, it, to me, it's still one of the biggest blunders that the Dubas management team has made. It is what it is, but that's something that worries me as well. I think he wanted to be captain, didn't get that opportunity, still isn't the captain, no playoff success. I mean, all he really has to show is individual success. And of course he gets league recognition, but the Leafs haven't even recognized him with a captaincy. Like, I don't know, to me, it's, I don't know what to say. I'm less, the comments he made helped. They helped. I think that I'm a little bit more positive on it than before, but there's still a big part of me that worries that he'll resign.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, I understand, but I also think, like, you can look at another example, and it's a guy he definitely idolized, and it's a guy who's being in trade talks right now, and it's Patrick Kane. And that guy is likely, in every single way that you can imagine, much of what Auston Matthews is, was, and wants to be as a player. And that's a guy who was the assistant captain next to Jonathan Toews his whole career. And sometimes it's more just about, like, yeah, he's a leader. He's going to be a leader. He's going to do those things. But there's a guy that's in that room who does some of the other things as a captain more so than that guy might. And that, in my opinion, that's fine. You don't need the C on your chest to be a leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? Good point. Obviously, like a good parallel to look to as well. The only kind of rebuttal I would have to that is you look at what Chicago is doing in the postseason versus the Leafs, right? That kind of reminds you that there's a sacrifice to be made for a bigger purpose. Right now, he's not wearing a C to be kicked out of the first round every time. You know, it's, again, very minute detail, but we have to remember Auston Matthews is an egocentric person. He wants the spotlight. He wants the stardom. The stardom is the captaincy in Toronto, at least to a certain extent. Like, that would build up the reputation of him. I was upset when he didn't get it. That's nothing new. But I got to say, the comments he made did put a bit more of a positive spin on a situation I was pretty pessimistic about. So I think that
Fair
these
enough.
comments help, that he spoke out. Obviously, the fact he's saying this to the media that's so crazy in Toronto means that there's a real good chance he will stay. Otherwise, doing this would be shooting himself in the foot completely.
Yep, that's fair enough. Final thing I just wanted to touch on briefly, the Pierre Engvall news. You kind of alluded to it. He sustained an ankle injury training in Sweden over the summer. It was nagging. They're going to have to leave him out to start the season. Won't be able to go on LTIR. He's going to be reevaluated October 3rd. So that money at the moment, it appears, won't be able to come off the books. But what it does open it up, and it's something you alluded to, and it makes a lot of sense, is the opportunity for battles in training camp, a more competitive training camp. There's guys fighting for positions here, and there's guys looking at that empty seat where Pierre Engvall sat last year going, I want that seat this year. And I think at bare minimum, it makes for good competition, and it makes for guys to push. It makes guys push harder for those spots. I think that's something we actually did end up seeing out of Engvall last year. Was he was a guy who came in here and said, I was on the outside and I don't want to be on the outside again. And he really, really pushed last season, and he grew to be a player that was basically loved by fans. So I think that that's a good spot. And there's a lot of guys who are going to be competing for spots this year. Looking across at Nick Robertson, Kyle Clifford, who we re-signed, Adam Gaudette, Nicholas Obey-Kubel, who we went out and got. Like there's certain guys who aren't going to be coming out of this lineup. We know that. David Kampf isn't going to be missing games. And you can look at basically the big four. They're not missing games. Michael Bunting, not missing games. Like, those are guys who aren't coming out for just a rotational thing or to be freshened up or whatever. But there are guys lower down in that lineup who will be pushed for spots, and I think that it opens up some battles, some opportunities for some battles, and most importantly, the one thing you mentioned is maybe the opportunity to move on from somebody and push them out in order to free up some cap space. You can identify here, this guy won't fit, that guy won't fit, he can do his job, we're done with you, and we can get rid of that money, and it opens up money elsewhere. So I think that that's an important thing to know.
Yeah, and I gotta say, man, I guess that's the situation that might be better for the team when you do the breakdown. But I really don't want to lose Pierre Engvall. Like, we love that guy. You said it yourself, fan favorite. But whatever happens, I assume is in the best interest of the team. I still have a degree of trust for Kyle Dubas. I mean, it's like on absolute thin ice right now. But Pierre Engvall would be great to keep him. But we'll see if someone can come into his spot and shine.
Well, that about does it for this one, Goody. Thank you for hopping on here. It's good to see you again talking about the Leafs. Things are getting exciting. We will have plenty more videos coming up, breaking down everything that happens, all of the news coming out, and you can be sure we will be back with some live streams. So let us know what you want us to cover this year. If you have questions, if you guys have things that you're looking for, make sure to hit like and subscribe on our channel on this video, and let us know your thoughts about the Sandin situation, how you feel about Liljegren being out, Engvall, what forwards may take his spot, what forwards don't have a shot. Let us know in the comments below. And of course, let us know if you think Auston Matthews will be coming back. Leafs fans, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate the support as always. We look forward to seeing you guys way more this season for all the live post games and everything like that. We will do some season day previews and all that stuff. It'll be coming up here on this channel, so make sure to hit like and subscribe to get notified. But we will see you guys very soon. Keep believing.
Signing off.